What's going on, guys? Welcome into today's show. We've got my buddy Christian Cardamone. He is a commercial real estate investor, broker, and developer, and has a great story. As we all know, right, entrepreneurship is just full of peaks and valleys, and his story is no different. He shares his journey of getting into the space, what led him to bankruptcy in 2008 during the financial crisis. A lot of great lessons there, and how he got back into the game and used a lot of those learning lessons to build an 8-figure net worth and commercial real estate portfolio, how he broke into commercial real estate development, all the different commercial real estate assets and projects that he's been involved in, some war stories, some, great ones. He even shared his historical renovation and exit on one of the oldest buildings in his area, 1738, I think is what he said. Also talked a little about some of the tax credits and the grants, some tactical information in there, but also just, how he has approached wealth building through commercial real estate. Just a great dude, great energy, and overall some really good lessons there that I think will benefit many of you who are on that wealth building journey as well and looking to leverage real estate investing as the vehicle to unlocking more wealth for yourself. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Be sure to check out all the links, the resources that we share in the show notes on millionairemindcast.com on his episode. And without further ado, let's dive into Christian's episode. Welcome into the show, Christian Cardamone. How we doing, man?
I'm doing phenomenal. Thank you so much for having me, man. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm ready to, talk some wealth building, some real estate investing. I know that you've done development. You've had some great successes, and I know obviously along the way, every entrepreneur, has some more stories as well. So I'm excited to hear about your journey and kind of how you got into the entrepreneurial space and real estate investing, commercial real estate development. Where'd this all begin for you?
Oh man. So turn back the clock. Many moons ago, grew up in upstate New York, and then my parents had some rentals up there, and they had always kind of worked for themselves. So they planted that seed early in us, just kind of by default. It was never anything that they pushed on us or whatever. But some of my earliest memories for riding, we drive back and forth up and down on the East Coast. Listening to like Tony Robbins and Earl Nightingale and Les Brown
Oh,
and
damn.
Dexter Yeager and all these amazing speakers, man. So I had no idea the kind of exposure I had at such an early age, and I couldn't be more thankful for anything in the world because it like hardwired me. Like I was brainwashed before I even knew what was going on into just being positive, being an entrepreneur, and knowing that like pretty much anything and everything was within reach.
Man, that's so cool. I saw to that point, I saw a post that somebody wrote today, and it was kind of around, real generational wealth isn't about passing on, like a family trust and an estate with a bunch of money in it, but more so, a healthy, positive mindset, a healthy marriage, a healthy household, like so many good, positive habits that really do get carried on generationally for a lot of people. Money comes and goes, when you talk about generational wealth, and I think, what do they say? Like statistically, it's lost by the third or fourth generation. But to have that, instilled in you knowingly or unknowingly at such a young age, like such a cool thing that your parents were able to give you. My mom was actually taking me to, both my parents were in corporate America their whole life, and my mom was taking me to real estate investing and personal development seminars when I was like 12, 13, 14. And I didn't realize how lucky I was to get exposed to that at such a young age until obviously later on in life. But such a cool thing that obviously through proximity and exposure, right? You were on a path of entrepreneurship probably before you decided to be on that path. What was it that got you into kind of your first business endeavor?
So the whole family just picked up at one point in about 96, and we moved down to coastal North Carolina here in Wilmington. And I just, got a job, did 1 year of high school, went to University of North Carolina at Wilmington, and then started working in restaurants and made my way into some of the downtown bars, bartending, and then seeing how much money we were making for the guy that owned the bar. And then just realizing, like looking at kind of some of the folks we were working with, I was like, I can do this, man. Why am I not working at my own bar? So I just kind of got a couple of buddies together, and we bootstrapped and bought a bar just literally right across the street from where we were all working. And that was really where the beginning of it all kind of really started to take off in like a professional endeavor. Now, back when I lived in New York, I had a like, I was like renting out like my ski boots and stuff to friends when I was like in sixth, seventh grade. So I was some sort of a salesman from the very early days, but it got real down here in North Carolina when we decided to open the bar. And that just kind of showed me that it's easier than you think. It's a little terrifying, but a lot of the business owners out there, one thing they have that a lot of people don't have is just the guts just to take the step and just do it.
Yeah.
Because we had a bar and people would come from out of town and walk into our bar and think it was the coolest thing ever. And we're like, dude, they have no idea. We're just like hanging by a thread. We just started this thing. We got, things are taped up on the walls, and it's so funny how it's all perception of what people think success is. But really, that was kind of the first step in, and that was such a phenomenal experience. I learned so much, met so many people that I wouldn't trade that for the world.
That's awesome. So did you end up selling the bar and moving on to your next endeavor, or what kind of led you to closing that chapter and what was next?
So while we had the bar, I was in real estate school and got licensed, and then started selling real estate with Remax. Jumped kind of right into like a cap model real estate. I knew that I didn't want to kind of have anything over my head as far as what I could make in the industry. Um, and I had this amazing pipeline of prospects with the bar, right? So I could talk to people, have a captive audience at the bar all night. And I'm not like the most chatty guy, but when you're the bartender, you're cool no matter what, just kind of like by default, even if you're
Yeah,
cool.
right.
So, so I just would have great conversations with people, and we're in like a coastal area, big tourist destination, and so people wanted to move here. So I kind of just started making contacts, and I would work till 3 or 4 in the morning. Sometimes I'd sleep on the couch at the bar, or just in the office, like right around the corner. I'd be up in the morning, slugging coffee, and then just kind of parlayed those relationships into real estate. So when we sold the bar, I was involved in the business brokerage side of that. I was kind of doing a little bit of that, and just heavily into commercial and residential real estate at that point. So the year was probably 2006, and that was when, dude, like the fish were jumping in the boat too. So I was newly licensed, making more money than I had ever seen, and it was all just happening. And so I was like, I was fearless. And as the story goes, I learned some lessons a little farther down the road, but that's where it all started.
Now, you jumped into, real estate. What was it about real estate that got you attracted into the space, and why did you decide to kind of plant your flag in that industry?
When I was in college, I bought my first house with a student loan, and then just worked at the Outback Steakhouse to just pay for college as I went. So having that property, and then effectively house hacking it before that was like a term, um, just was such a clear path to like just wash, rinse, and repeat this process, because I had a 4 bedroom house. You rent out 3 of them, live for free, make some money. At a certain point, I wanted to move down actually on the island, and was just rented out all 4 rooms and used that extra cash flow to subsidize my rent down there. And it just seemed like it wasn't rocket science. And so you get these cash flow benefits, then you get to provide the house for your friends, which is even cooler. And then you get the equity that starts to increase over time. And it just, to me, it wasn't anything like I had discovered something. It was just a game that I knew was there. I decided to participate early, and I'm very grateful I did. Yeah.
So you were on that path for a few years. 2008 financial, crash kind of hit. How did that impact you, your real estate journey, your wealth building journey? What did all of that look like?
Oh, dude, that's where it things changed. So I was like hot shit, rookie of the year for Remax, slam dunks here and there, selling lots of real estate, riding high, had that brand new BMW, had bought like a 5 bedroom beach house, elevator. I was like as cool as they come in my mind. And then bought a bunch, I just bit off more than I could chew. My eyes were bigger than my stomach, and I had to learn that the hard way. So as a lot of these adjustable rates came due, Payments went from 2 grand to 4 grand to 8 grand. People were just, there was like fear and blood in the streets, as everyone kind of knows. And it hit the fan. So for 2 years, I tried to avoid the Grim Reaper. And then in 2010, I had to just fold my tent and file bankruptcy, which was like the hardest thing I've ever had to do because, I'm not a quitter. I want to make good on all my debts. It was like just devastating, like on a personal level. And I just kind of had to like have some humble pie
Mm.
too, which was necessary. And again, that was like another experience. At the time, it was like just terrible. But looking back on it now, like that's what kind of gave me the grit to get through. If I can get through that, and I got that program discharged early, made good on all the debts that we reorganized. Um, so I knew at that point it was like, all right, now it's definitely on. I learned what not to do. I
What were some of
learned
those things
how
that stood
to.
out to you that you really learned, like, "Hey, I'm lesson learned, not gonna do that again."
I think for me, and there's different schools of thought on this, but slow, steady growth in real estate as an investor
Yeah.
um, was something that I think there's a lot of people that get into real estate and they buy, they buy, and it's never like they never really think about what happens in like the doomsday scenario. Or
Mhm.
what happens like if you can underwrite things conservatively, but some people just it's not going to happen to me. Um, and dude, it can happen to you. So you have a little bit of vacancy turns into a lot of vacancy. You have some capital repairs that turn into some bigger than you thought capital repairs. You have you know the the way I was generating income that kind of slowed down significantly. I mean, I went from making 6 figures selling real estate to like running a dive boat as a captain, which was actually freaking awesome. So that was a great experience when I had some extra free time. But I stayed in real estate the whole time. But I think that's one of the things that advice I always give to investors, new and old, man. It's like you don't fly too close to the sun
Mm.
um, when it comes to investing because there's the oldest story in the book is what happens to Kid Icarus. However, on the flip side of that, sometimes calculated gambles will help, make some of the biggest moves that you can do. So that's the fine line. And I think that's really where the nuance of being a professional, um, astute investor uh, can be demonstrated.
Yeah. What do you say to those people? Because I know a lot of people, right, they hit kinda like a financial hardship, whether it's first deal doesn't go according to plan and, they're licking their wounds and they're like, "What real estate's not for me," right? Or they get their ass kicked in their first business and like, "Maybe I'm just meant to be an employee." Like, you got back into the batter's box, right? You struck out, you went back to the dugout, but you got back up to the batter's box and you kept swinging. Like, what was your mindset or your habits or your disciplines or just your overall kind of outlook and advice that, you would share with other people that maybe have run into one of those types of experiences and it's like, man, you gotta, because I always tell people, I'm like, that those are all like pain is a part of the path of progress. It's when you stop or you
Yeah.
quit that you don't actually get the ROI on the pain that you just went through. So like go and capture that ROI by not making those same mistakes again, right? Just use those learning lessons as stepping stones or launching pads to that next level. But if you don't ever get back into the batter's box, right? You scrape a knee, you fall off your bike and you don't get back on, like you're never gonna have the result, that could be there if you leverage those learning lessons. So what was your perspective around that?
Yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head, dude. I mean, it's exactly it. Like, you can't become successful without failure. You have to push through these types of things. For me, I didn't know another way, so I was tempted to go and get like a job and get like a paycheck that I could count on every week and the same dollar amount. That just seems so like boring to me, though. It's like, well, okay, you can go get a job, make like $1,000 a week. It's 4 grand a month. Okay, so that's this much a year, but then you have to like work with just that amount of money. And I was never good at budgeting anyway. So I was like, I need to just make more than that. I don't know how much more, but like I want to like live my life. So I want to not have a cap on this. So I didn't know any other way other than just get back to it. One thing that I hate to see more than anything is people that once you've already taken the hits, that's the hard part. Now you get to go in and enjoy the fruits of that labor or that experience by way of a clearer path or more
Mhm.
insight into whatever it is you're doing, or like that's where the gold is, man. So if you quit like before something hard happens, maybe you just didn't like it. That's cool. But if you get knocked down, if you don't get back up, you're wasting that experience.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So you got back up and you got back into investing, right? Your net worth was built up. Then all of a sudden, chapter 13, back down to square one. What was
Yeah.
the first or that next deal that kind of got you back in the saddle?
So I'm trying to think. I showed my attorney at the time a house, and he didn't want it. And I said, I got to have this. If you're not going to buy it, I'm going to. And I had just honestly, man, my mindset shifted to just saving and paying off um, any debt, living like I had to live by virtue of cash, obviously,
Mm.
because credit was not an option anymore. So I just got really good and really frugal um, at saving money, and by still being practicing real estate agent, I had access to the MLS, which I still think this whole industry is so amazing because if you're a broker, you basically get like inside baseball on what's coming, what's going. It should be illegal, but it's not, and so I won't push the issue. But having the amount of information we have access to just always gives you opportunities, and not necessarily like in an unscrupulous way, but if deals come about before they hit the market, those are opportunities. So I just started buying single family homes as I could with as primary residences. Once I could find banks that would work with me, had to start with credit unions, um, and just kind of was very like slow and steady until I stepped into some commercial real estate. Um, Probably 5 or 6 years after that was discharged. So 16, 17, and that's when started kind of taking giant steps. So that was an eye opener.
What was it that got you intrigued in transitioning from doing the single family kind of onesie twosie rentals to being like, I want to go into something bigger. Let's get into some commercial. What was it that pulled you into that space, and what did some of those deals look like? How'd you break into it?
Well, I had been selling commercial real estate along the way, and so I bought a building downtown that I had no business buying back before the market crashed, and was able to kind of pull that one through. Um, and dispose of that just before the bankruptcy. But the note had gotten called due, and an investor bought it. And so he approached me with the note and was so kind and generous, allowed me to sell the property, give him what he needed to net, and keep the difference. So that kind of helped give me a little egg to kickstart. And I'll never forget that because he was not greedy. He had come to look at the property before when I was trying to dispose of it under the guise of like a buyer,
Mhm.
and was kind of like testing me. So he liked the way that I was marketing it and worked with him. So he allowed me to continue to list it until we sold it. Um, but seeing what some of my clients were doing, making moves on bigger scales, was definitely like, shit, this is what I need to be doing. And then when I understood the uh, process of how commercial real estate is valued with NOI and cap rates, and realizing how quickly you could force equity on a property by way of improvements or tenants. um, it's like magic, dude. It still is. It's crazy. You can take a vacant building, it's worth 300 grand. You put a tenant in there paying 10 grand a month, and it's a multi-million dollar property. It's like
Yep.
pulling a rabbit out of a hat.
It's crazy. I know. I always tell people, and that's why I try and encourage. I'm not saying, I came from the single family world as well, but I'm not trying to, discourage people from investing in real estate in general, because I think it's a path or a stepping stone to financial freedom. But single family real estate's a grind. It's like, and to hit the levels of real financial freedom that I think most people want to hit, you gotta hit some major scale in single family, right? Whereas in commercial, you're like, man, one or two of these can be total game changers and, hit financial milestones for people that, 15, 20 properties would require you to do to get there, right? So, and a lot of it is
Yeah.
just strategy and negotiating and rehabbing, and negotiating paper and locking in your income and your values on paper versus a lot of the heavy lifting that you got to do sometimes in the single family world.
Yeah, that was is exactly what it is. It just comes down to a consolidated effort that I think pays a bigger return. And so I like the idea of being able to. I found out that one of my skill sets is like not collecting lots and lots of houses that have 10 single family houses. That's 10 roofs.
Yep.
One commercial building, that's one roof. And so I kind of got into it. I sold a building to a client of mine. It's the oldest building in Wilmington. It was 1738. It's amazing, still standing.
Wow.
Had like a little Civil War doctor's office on it where they used to like lop off arms and legs and stuff. And then has this incredible history, but it had been sitting for decades. Um, and he wanted to restore it, so I sold it to him. And through the process, we became like very close. And then I had my general contractor's license as well at that point. And so he hired my father and I to restore it. So we restored it through that process. He gave me the opportunity to buy into it as a partner, um, which I immediately seized. And then I just ran point on the rest of the renovation. And then I placed a tenant. And by way of placing that tenant, we added literally 7 figures worth of value to the property. And so that was when I was like, this works. Um, Owner's happy. I'm happy because I'm an investor now and a general contractor. I brokered the deal. Um, Tenants incredibly happy because they have a brand new property that's fully restored. We got incredible tax benefits through the federal tax program for historic renovations. And so that was really the one play that I made that I got a chance to really look behind the curtain and see, okay, tax advantage, appreciation, forced equity, rents going up. This is my jam.
It's my jam. It's my jam. I love that.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, because I think that's something that a lot of people overlook, that, you can't get a lot of this stuff on the single family side, but in terms of tax credits or, federal, state, even city grants, there's a lot of ways that you can, mitigate some of the cash in a deal that, really allows you to juice your returns and kind of lower your risk. What did that look like on a historic, federal type of building like that?
So that was a unique one because we had to jump through like lots and lots of hoops to get everything approved because it was such a delicate building and process. Like we had to bring in like mortar from Seattle to
Oh,
match. Um, it was like very laborious, I would say, just from an administrative standpoint. So
yeah.
that worked out. We ended up getting, if I recall, like $2 for every dollar we spent came back by way of a credit from a federal, and then a state. There was a state match as well. So that was that was absolutely, the juice was worth the squeeze. But I think something that I learned after that, which is even more important, is the value of having like cost segregation studies done. That
Mhm.
was another real eye opener for me. Um, and for the folks who don't know what those are or are unfamiliar, it's something that, I'd encourage you to really dig into because that's a tool that you can use to get incredible benefits on your tax, offsetting some of your taxes. And honestly, that's helped me through the last 2 years when there's not been a lot of stuff to buy that's been really penciling out. Um, if you factor in some of the kind of back end things you can capture through a cost seg, then it does pencil out. Not in like a traditional way, as far as positive cash flow, but you can see some of these other benefits. So I think you got to look at it from like a global perspective as an investor on ways to make a property work if you believe in the property in the market.
Yeah.
There's other ways than just what's the cash flow on it.
Yeah, I remember one of my buddies kind of got me thinking about this early on in my commercial journey too. He's like, cash flow is one thing, and let's look at, cash on cash returns and IRRs and, all that good stuff, right? But also don't forget, he calls it tax flow. He's like, if you can get, taxes and the money flowing back into your pocket versus to the federal government, that also is a return on investment that a lot of people just don't factor into
Totally.
their financial modeling, right? And so that's why I always say, my model, simple model that we talk about, in our commercial real estate mastermind and the Wise Investor Collective is like, just focus on buying one commercial asset a year, right? And whether that's 1031 exchanging, or if you've got, capital gains or income that, you're going to be paying taxes on, if you buy one commercial building a year, and you cost seg it, not only are you going to get the cash flow and the equity growth over time, but you're going to have now a tax, bargaining chip to cash in every year that can totally offset, your federal in a lot of ways that people just don't think about.
Yeah, totally. And it's because I think it seems like it's a tax credit or it's a write off or whatever. It seems so like far off on the before you get to realize the return of
Yeah.
that. But dude, if you're thinking big and you're thinking long term, that's absolutely just as important as cash flow, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. So you've been in multifamily, office, industrial, vacation rentals. I even saw that you've done boat slips. Like
Yeah.
what have been some of your best deals, some of your worst deals? Like what's your favorite, asset class? What's your buy box? What's your investment kind of strategy and thesis now? Seeing all of those and
Oh
touching all
man.
those different asset classes.
Dude, I'm like so guilty of shiny object syndrome when it comes to real estate that it's not even funny. I just we're in a small market, so I this is what I tell myself to justify it, even though it probably sounds insane, because everyone says, go deep on an asset class and become the maestro and dominate it. Yeah, I think I've chosen just to use this market to go deep, and
Mm,
that allows me to then play in different little sandboxes of assets. But I feel like I'm kind of past single family, small multifamily. I'm right now. I'm into some development, some new construction development. We just finished a 3 unit like luxury townhouse project that I
nice.
built and developed and sold, and that was like such a great project.
What the
Where my office
numbers,
is
what the
now, it's
deal look
probably
like
better.
on that?
So I bought the driving for dollars, like half a mile from my office one day, found like I've been here for 25 years, never went down this road. Go down it. I see this like little for sale by owner side, like sign, like in the bushes, upside down. It looked like you've been there for a couple years. Call them, family owns it in Atlanta. Ended up took me a year to negotiate with them, bought the lot for 80 grand. Um, had some plans drawn for it from a buddy of mine who's a just phenomenal architect, Rob Romero. Um, there's buildings downtown I kind of wanted to copy, so um, drew that up. Anyways, got that kind of like underwrote the deal,
Hmm.
borrowed a million for to build it, and sold it for 2 million. So you know
I like those
the numbers
numbers.
were great. Took me 18 months to do, start to finish. Um, yeah, man, and it's like a landmark in town. It's love or hate the way it looks because it's so ultra modern and we've got some really funky colors on it. But I'm really proud of it, and so it was a great experience. So I'm looking for more of those. I've got a couple pieces of land that are um, we're in process right now. I'm working to get one rezoned. Was at the planning commission last night, and have another project in TRC. So that's fun to me. I think creating, adding value, um, and developing is kind of this is the next season of my endeavor.
I can relate to that. I'm working through developing. I have a 75,000 square foot shopping center that I'm pretty much through the redevelopment now, and I'm finalizing some lease ups with some national brands and tenants, and kind of backfilling. Just getting the plaza stabilized again.
Yeah,
But there's an acre lot on the back of it that had some dinky, dilapidated little storage units. So I'm tearing those down and I'm working through putting 20 multifamily units on the back of that. And
that's amazing.
development is fun if you know what to do. First off, right? There's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of people that, you got, but when you can figure out the team, you can figure out the process. And just like I always kind of say, it's,
Yeah,
just like single family is, just like, flipping houses is, just like an office building, a multifamily, whatever, like every asset class I kind of look at as like a board game. And it takes a while to sit
mhm,
down and, go through. You play the board game one or two times and you start to go, okay, I understand how it's played. There's a strategy here.
yeah.
This is how the pieces move. And you decide if you want to play that game or not. Again, as I've gotten more into development, I'm like, I like this game. This is a game I want to play more of, and it can be a lucrative one, right? When you do it properly.
Yeah, dude. It's totally. I think the one thing that keeps the barrier to entry high is it takes time. Like
Yeah.
you're moving only as fast as a municipality can go, or the architect. And so it's all about your team. And the thing I like about it, because I've developed a couple small projects, nothing like major, but I'm the kind of guy who like wants to do everything. And this kinda keeps me in my lane. If I'm putting on the developer hat, like, I've been selling real estate for 20 years, but I hired an agent to sell this project for me. That was, like, the hardest thing I ever had to do
Yeah, I
because
can
it's like, I
imagine.
could do that. I can't go, like, advertise another broker's listing, but it's my listing, so, switching seats and hats is cool, and it's been a good experience, so, I'm stoked that you're doing it too, and it's like, one thing that I did, after this one, the last one I did was successful, and I've been fortunate. They've all been successful up to this point, but I have a big one in front of me now. But we hired a consultant. My brother-in-law, he's my partner on this next one, but we hired a development consultant who's like a stud in our market because the stakes are a little higher.
Yeah.
Things do take longer. So if something doesn't go your way, you've just wasted 6, 8 months. It's like, dude, you gotta. It's worth it to pay for that expertise and know where to step and where not to step.
So tell me about this one. So obviously you've gotten through a couple and you're like, all right, I'm ready to kind of maybe level up a little bit. What's this deal look like? What's the vision for it? What's the goal financially for it? What does all that look like?
Oh, cool. So, okay, so I've got 2 right now. One is, it's a 0.78 of an acre. It's on a main corridor here near my office, near Forest Hills. Originally, we were thinking of doing like a multifamily, like a 4-story mixed use building on it. Um, did a big pro forma on it with this development consultant we hired, and it turns out it's gonna be like a 6, $7 million project. And the only way to probably dispose of that is gonna be at like a really low cap rate to make it worthwhile.
Mhm.
Um, and it'd probably be like maybe a $200,000 gain at the end of the day. So you know, we we own the lot outright because we bought it right from a wholesaler, which was awesome. Um, so if we spend, 5 million, go through all this process, take on all this risk, and we make 2 or 300 grand, that's like a lot of risk. So, and we
Yep.
could sell the lot right now and make that exact same profit without doing a thing. So that's kind of, we almost picked it up so right that everything we're looking at is like, well, dude, let's just freaking sell it the way it is and make the same amount pound for pound without having to put a shovel in the ground.
Yeah.
Um, that project is a federally designated brownfield. So it's got a little environmental hair on it, which we've cleaned up over the last 2 years. But right now, our plan in front of TRC with the city is 11,000 square feet over 2 buildings. And we're thinking it's going to be flex space,
Nice.
um, with like brick facades. So it'll be pretty flex space. And we'll do like 11 units depending. We'll try and pre-lease it. And like if one company wants the whole thing, score. If we get a handful of small businesses, then we'll just lease them out triple net at cold dark shells, and then we'll step on the upfit as we do
Yep.
that as well for them. So there's a couple different ways to make some money through it, and it's been a fun project. But that one it's taken a couple years, man. So it's a slow game.
It is. Yeah. Talk a little bit more about that process though, because I think that's mitigating your risk along the way, right? I mean, you've now got a vision for it. You're thinking, kind of like the flex industrial, small contractor, business owner, blue collar workers that want a little bit of warehouse space, maybe a little bit of administrative office space, right? And those are,
Mhm.
in my opinion, I don't see that product going anywhere from a demand perspective. I think so at least in my area, every, people in our mastermind group that are doing those, I mean, they're just getting swooped up quicker than, you can find them. Um, you go through the entitlement process, you get your plans and your drawings and you start to create this vision. You're talking about pre-leasing them. Why are you going to do that? And what's the reasoning and the strategy for that?
So we're paying for everything out of pocket as we go now. So we can go to um, basically once we get the land fully entitled and approved through TRC, which means that the city says, okay, we're going to allow you to build these based on these plans, and then we'll be out X amount of dollars, probably like between some of the environmental cleanup, we're probably out like 80, $100,000 right now. Well, not out. but in, I'd say,
Yeah. Yeah.
on top of what we acquired the property for. So now at this point, if we want to obtain financing to build this to go vertical, then um, we could go out and they would lean on the pro forma, and a bank might look at that favorably based on us backing it in our credentials. But if we pre-lease it and then I get the listing out there, I get some beautiful renderings up there, we kind of sell the dream. If I can show up with 7 or 8 reservations or pre-signed leases, I can give the bank a ton of confidence, and B, we can actually start to attribute value to the project
Yeah.
because the leases will determine what the property is going to be worth, and then the banks. It's not just like a what if we lease it. It's like no, it's pre-leased, so it just becomes like this cool version of like what was just like a dream, even though it's not tangible yet. We've got like humans ready to sign, or
It's
we have
validated.
reservations or pre-signed leases. Totally, it's exactly what it is. Just it's a validated concept, and so then it becomes something that you can lever.
Yeah, and what I've found from my experience and just many others, right, is going that approach. Now, oftentimes you can negotiate or get much better terms on your construction loan or your perm loan, with the banks that are going to show some interest in it. Cause like you said, hey, this isn't just pie in the sky anymore. We got real people that are engaged contractually, binded to
Yeah,
go in and start paying us money when we build this thing. So we just need the money. Help us out.
totally. Yeah, dude. And I listened to one of your episodes maybe a couple of weeks ago where you had mentioned the like leasing out properties before you close escrow and before you even, going and grabbing tenants while you're in due diligence, stuff like that. It's genius,
Yeah.
it's a great concept. And I think people should check that episode out where you kind of dive into that because that's the name of the game. When it comes to commercial real estate, the value of the property is really determined by the strength and duration of the lease and the viability of the tenant and the rates that you're getting and the types of terms. So that's the best way to go out and go shopping with it before you close on it and decide. Yeah, because if you don't end up finding a date for the dance, then you don't have to go.
Yeah. 100%. So as we kind of wrap up, curious, always love to, see through the lens of each individual person's perspective on what's your outlook on the, real estate industry, commercial real estate industry as a whole. What are you thinking for 2025 and heading forward?
Man, I'm always very like bullish on real estate always because
Oh, I see.
it's one thing that consistently performs. When it's good, it's great. When it's not, it's still good.
Yeah.
You can always go touch it. If I have to go sleep in the freaking warehouse, dude, I'll do it. I'll be stoked. It's not going to just evaporate on my screen. So I love that. I think we've had a ton of money sitting on the sidelines
Yeah.
for the last couple years, and I think we're going to start to see that ease. A lot of folks were really worried that all this commercial shadow inventory is stacking because of all these rates and notes that are set to mature. So we'll see if that comes to light. Like it should have started happening now. It
Right.
hasn't started happening in our market to like a critical mass, but if it does, everyone thinks there's going to be all these opportunities to buy. But dude, I think there's so much freaking money out there on the sidelines. It's going to get snorted up so fast. You're going to miss the boat unless you're really paying attention on like a daily basis, and or if you're not building and fostering relationships with the bankers who are going to be having some of these things, some of these opportunities on their desk. So I think it's going to be a great couple of years. The administration, everyone knows, like it or not, it's definitely pro real estate. So that's another feather in the cap. And yeah, dude, I'm stoked. I mean, I feel like this is the next era is about to begin.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited as well. I share those sentiments. I know a lot of people are going to want to, check out what you're up to. I know you just launched your own podcast. You got a lot of cool stuff that you're putting out as well. So where's the best place for them to connect with you?
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, my podcast is called The Build Better Blueprint, and it's on iTunes and Spotify. It's young, but it's coming along, and hopefully I'll be having you on as a guest soon. Um, and I'm also on Instagram at Captain Cardamone, and Facebook is just my name, Christian Cardamone, and would love to just be a resource to your listeners. And I love all things real estate, man, and I'm just constantly stoked on this business, and I love I love watching people succeed in real estate. It's tremendous.
Well, Christian, we appreciate you coming on the show today, brother.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. We'll see you next time, Matt.
Well, that wraps up today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, you guys know this show would not be what it is without you, the amazing listener, the support, sharing this out with other people who can gain value from it, taking 60 seconds to leave a review. If you haven't done so already, those things mean the world to us and ultimately help us spread this message out to as many people as we possibly can to help them on their wealth building journey. If you have any particular links or resources that you're trying to track down that were mentioned in this interview, be sure to check out this episode at millionairemindcast.com, where you can find access to all that information. And of course, if you haven't checked out the Wise Investor Vault yet, be sure to head over to wiseinvestorvault.com to check out all the tools, all the resources, the checklists, the spreadsheets, the trackers, all kinds of amazing things that can help you on your wealth building journey at the wiseinvestorvault.com. If you haven't connected with me on social media yet, I'm consistently putting out more content, stories, value to help you on your wealth building journey. And one of the best and most exciting things for me on a weekly basis is getting to connect with you guys. Getting your DMs, hearing what things impacted you, what you need help with is a big way that we continue to drive the content for this show. So if we're not connected and following each other on Instagram, on social media at Official Matty A, give me a like and a follow. Would love to connect with you there. And of course, don't forget to get on my deals list. If you're an accredited investor, you want to look at more deal flow. You want to see what deals I have access to, what deals I'm raising capital for. This is an exclusive list that I only put out to my accredited investor list, my Millionaire Mindcast family. So text the word deals to 844-447-1555. And with that being said, thank you again so much for supporting the show. Until next week's episode, keep investing in yourself, in your wealth on your march to $1 million and beyond. Cheers.